Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Here's a story of how one close call behind the wheel brought a new meaning to the phrase, life flashing before your eyes. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The time my mom's driving nearly gave me a heart attack. Background to this, my mother's a terrible driver, gets very distracted, has had many accidents. I'd have been in my late teens when this happened. We took her weekly spin to the grandparents' house in a village about an hour's drive outside the city. It had been a few years since I'd been in the car with her. I'd chosen to live with my dad a few years prior, so my tolerance to her driving had dropped significantly. Several times as we drove out of the city, she'd either run red lights, turn from the wrong lane, or stayed sitting at the lights after they'd changed to green because she wasn't paying attention. After I said something, or squeaked in fear 3 or 4 times, I was firmly told to shut up and not to say another word about her driving. So I gripped the sides of my seat cushion and gritted my teeth and tried to come to terms with my mortality. About 20 Ks out of town on a slow, straight road my mother's driven literally 1,000 times before, there were some unexpected roadworks in the distance. A couple of kilometers down the road, full visibility, minimal traffic, one tiny red car stopped at the lights, which are red in the distance. I glance over and she's looking out the side window, communing with the clouds, because that's what she does. Not to worry, right? She'll eventually have to look at the road, right? Right? You don't know my mother. Now we're a kilometer away, lights are still red, car's still there, and not so tiny. 800 meters, 500 meters. She's still looking out the side window, thinking deep cloud-related thoughts, still doing 80. I'm frankly petrified at this point, because my desire for malicious compliance is warring with my desire to live, and we're still doing 80. And the not very small at all red car still stopped at the red light. At about 200 meters out, my will to live wins out, and I scream, "Stop!" She slams on the brakes, and a split second of anger rolls off her before she wakes the F up, and we skid, sliding forwards helplessly. I feel like I could see the eyes of the guy in front in his rearview mirror looking at us with horror. Some trauma bonding, I'm sure. Our car comes to a stop with only the slightest of crunching sounds. I think we must have shaved years off his life. The aftermath was a lot of screaming from him, hysterical laughing from me, which did not help at all. I don't remember anything after that. A common side effect of dealings with my mother. Edit. For all the people out there, this was 3 decades ago, and she's gone from being very blasé and fast to very paranoid and slow, and only drives to the locals' shops now. I don't mean any ill will with this, but I don't think your mother should have a license. And our second story. Report! Where's the report? In the 1980s, I was general manager of a cable television company. Of all the reports we had to generate for our corporate office, the converter reconciliation report was probably the most important. Every cable TV office and nearly every company had to complete one monthly. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember the converter boxes that connected to the TV and the cable so that the customer could tune all the channels. Well, let me tell you, they were expensive, and we had to account for every one of them every month. Many were in customers' homes, but others were on technicians' trucks, in inventory, in repair, lost, stolen, and so on. The converter reconciliation report told us how much of this important asset was in use and where it was. It had to be correct, and it had to be in corporate's hands monthly without fail. This company was run by a bunch of disorganized idiots. Every month, I'd submit this important report to corporate, and they would call wanting to know where it was and why I hadn't completed it. Every month, I would have to send them another, and they would call again, angry, and I would send another. Wash, rinse, repeat. 4 or 5 times every month, they would lose my report and call, threatening to fire me for not getting the report in on time. I was always in trouble for allegedly not sending my converter reconciliation report. Having had enough of corporate's BS, I took the completed converter rec report and made 22 photocopies of it, 22 being the average number of work days in a month. I put one in each of the 22 envelopes addressed to the corporate office, put postage on each envelope, then made sure that in each day's outgoing mail, one report was sent. Sure enough, the angry phone call came. Manager, where's your monthly converter rec? Me, should be in your mailbox. Did you check? Manager, oh, here it is. Okay, thanks. A few days later, manager, where's your monthly converter rec, damn it? Me, should be in your mailbox, boss. Did you check? Manager, oh, here it is. Okay, thanks. Wash, rinse, repeat. Finally, after about 3 weeks, I get a phone call. Manager, why do I have a stack of the same converter rec report? Me, I just want you always to have one handy, boss. After that, they quit losing my report. Amazing that they actually got what you meant. I thought you'd have to be direct with them. And our next story. Park in the spot I waited for? I'm going to make your life difficult. This happened about 5 years ago in Hobart, Tasmania. I was staying in a bougie hotel in a converted warehouse on the dockside. Outside the hotel was maybe 10 bays of public parking, 1 hour max stay, all in a line with a little turning space at the other end. In the middle of these is 2 bays designed for hotel guests to leave their cars for valet parking. I pulled up into the parking lot and a hotel staff member is pulling out of the valet bay. I go past him to turn around and line up waiting by the bay. As I'm about to pull into it, Miss Karen in her entry-level sports car flies into the lot and takes the space. No other spaces are available. I wind down my window and ask if she's being valeted because I could just block her and they can move both cars in if that's the case. She tells me to mind my effing business and walks off in the other direction with her keys, obviously not bring valet parked. So I follow the rules. These bays are hotel property and valet parking only, so I block her in. If she was legit, it wouldn't matter. I went to the concierge and explained the situation and how rude she was. The staff member laughed and said she does this all the time. She's off to get coffee next door. When I got back to reception a half hour later, she's in the lobby absolutely raging. My car's blocked in. Why have you not moved that B-word's car yet? The concierge is sitting there, smug as anything. Oh, madam, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, and we're fully booked, so our valet is super busy right now. He'll be back soon. I think they kept her waiting 45 minutes in total. It was delicious to watch. And our last story. Neighbors demand to remove privacy hedge from my property. I bought my first home in 2016, a decent place on 1.4 acres with a handful of neighbors and lots of farmland around. I'm technically zoned rural residential, not part of an HOA or subdivision, and I'm outside of city limits. Not long after moving in, the people who live behind me claimed that the whole back 15 feet of my property was theirs. This area where they kept their junk, a burn barrel, used oil jugs, a rotted out yard roller, and all sorts of literal trash, all under this large hedge which ended up being right on the property line. The trash pile was impossible to ignore as soon as you stepped out to my back deck, and the smell from the burn barrel was horrible. I had a copy of the property lines from my realtor, so I called a local surveyor to stake out my property. By July 2016, just a couple of months after closing on the house, the surveyor was out there marking the line. Sure enough, their burn barrel was 15 feet into my property, along with all their trash. After waiting 2 weeks, I moved just their burn barrel back onto their own property. I'd already explained to the husband that I didn't want a community burn barrel on my property because I don't burn my trash, and I didn't want to be liable if someone got hurt. After that, the harassment never stopped. By 2020, my neighbors had put up a moving string along the property line just to be petty. I received numerous false reports filed against me by the small town buddy club. We both have no trespassing signs up now, and I haven't talked with them since 2018 because they were always aggressive and in my face whenever I tried to be civil. In July 2020, the local surveyor came back out and purposely marked my property wrong so my neighbors, his buddies, could cut down that privacy hedge that was right on the property line. I have pictures of the surveyor walking down the property line with zero tools on him and a picture of where he marked the line. Before marking my yard wrong, my neighbor had admitted to their surveyor buddy that they planted that hedge on the property line 30 plus years ago. After the surveyor marked the wrong area as the line, he said, "This is not the property line. Once you get the hedge removed, you need to call me back out here to mark it." By this point, I'd made it clear to the county that I didn't want the hedge removed because it was the only privacy we had from one another. I also added 16 emerald green giants back in 2017 for additional privacy, setting them 4 feet from the line. Before the surveyor left, I stopped him and made sure he wasn't going to bill me for not doing his job. He ended up billing my neighbors instead. My neighbors then went to town digging up my property and putting in a wavy border all on my property. I told the county and they told me I needed a new survey. I told the sheriff's office and they said I needed a new survey. This fraudulent survey was protecting these people, and even though it was only a little over a foot off, it was still unlawful and done so they could do whatever they wanted with my property. Our state has laws about both properties having equal interest over a tree or hedge on the property line, and all the stumps were directly on the property line. On December 1st, 2020, the county tree trimmer cut down this 30-plus-year-old privacy hedge, 12 individual bushes, and instantly my neighbors were out stalking the area with a much better view. Then, just days later, on December 6th, 2020, we lost our first son to a placental abruption at 8 months pregnant. Shortly after that, the neighbors put up a junky 6-foot fence, but only in the area where the hedge was. The bushes I planted are still there, but now there's a gap where those 12 stumps sit. I tried calling a surveyor in 2021, but we took that year off to heal and be there for each other. We were only living on my VA disability and occasional side jobs. I was quoted $4,600 by a company that the county claims works within the county. I wasn't going to call the same corrupt surveyor out, which sucked because he's the only surveyor available to the public within the county. My neighbors filed more false reports with the county against me, filed a petition for a protection order, and lied about every incident. We ended up with a protection order against them. This last September, I was able to get a surveyor with no ties to the corruption to survey my property. I was quoted $1,200. He proved that the previous survey was done wrong. The corrupt surveyor came out a month later and confirmed that the survey I had done was right. I tried to claim the damages on my insurance, but was denied because the corrupt surveyor purposely marked it wrong. I was told that since the tree trimmer was the one who physically removed the hedge, I needed to go through his insurance, but he wouldn't give me his information. I was told to file a police report, so I called him out a couple of days ago and will pick up the paperwork on Monday. I reported the surveyor to the state attorney general's office and was told this will be reviewed by the licensing board, but I haven't heard anything since. I've reached out to multiple attorneys, but keep getting told they're too busy. They don't go after municipalities or they don't do civil cases. Update. After years of battling with corrupt officials and dealing with relentless harassment from my neighbors, justice was finally served. I took the matter to court, representing myself after being unable to find an attorney willing to take on the case. The judge ruled in my favor, acknowledging the fraudulent survey and the unlawful removal of the hedge. The court ordered my neighbors to restore the property to its original state, including replanting a privacy hedge and compensating me for damages. It's been a long and exhausting fight, but I'm relieved to have finally won. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.